Akura! The word came from behind Solomon. It was growled out from between teeth and dripping with saliva. It was almost unrecognizable, but Solomon knew who had spoken even as he turned back. Raylan, Amran, and the First Strike had spread out through the chamber but were now clustered together again and advancing towards Solomon and Tulava. "No blood here," their leader snarled. "No skulls, no prey." "Ready?" Tulava asked from behind him. The skin on the back of Solomon's neck detected a faint chill as she drew in her will, ready for him to throw himself flat and her to unleash a blast of psychic force, just as they had done so many times before. "Wait," he said instead. He knew his own capabilities and Tulava's, but his armor was already damaged and she was tired. 11 Alpha Legionnaires would have been a tall order at the best of times, let alone under such circumstances, and especially when the opponents in question were on the verge of completely losing control to the Blood God. You could manipulate the worshippers of Khorne more easily than most. You could bait them and distract them and outwit them, but combat was where they made up for all those shortcomings. If you were actually fighting the followers of the Skull Throne, you had already lost half of the battle. He would not lose this opportunity, not now. The First Strike were slipping, but they were still Alpha Legion, and they were not fully lost yet. Reason could still prevail. He opened his mouth to try diplomacy. "Solomon." That word was not uttered by anyone within the room. The faint crackle, the multi-directional nature of it, the echoes, it was coming from hidden Vox units. Solomon knew that voice. "I am so glad you decided to—" A less intelligent warrior would have stayed to listen. They would have stood, rooted to the spot by shock as they were taunted. "Not, Solomon Akura. If your enemy felt secure enough to speak to you, you were standing in the wrong place." He snatched Tulava up again and immediately ran for the doors. "Wait, what are— Detonate, now!" The First Strike lurched into pursuit as soon as Solomon moved, their hair trigger senses activated by the sight of a living being fleeing. The fact that Solomon was not running from them was immaterial, nor was their movement born from any sense of self-preservation, whether or not they had heard the order to detonate. He was running, and so they gave chase, but they had started farther from the doors, and they were not fast enough. Solomon was through and into the passage beyond before the explosions began to rip up from beneath the floor of the vault and out from the walls. He cut right immediately and was rewarded for his choice by not getting caught in the eruption of flame and dust that billowed out of the doorway on his heels. As soon as it subsided, he veered back into the original corridor, making for the stairs to the upper levels. He could already hear the creaking of strained masonry and the patter of dust falling from the vault ceiling growing into a tide. "The roof's coming down!" Tulava yelled from across his shoulder. "I am aware of this," Solomon replied. He reached where the injured trooper had unwittingly given him directions and took the stairs 5 at a time, ignoring the grunts from Tulava as she was jolted around. "I can probably get us out of here," the sorceress gasped in time with footfalls. "Save your strength," Solomon instructed her, eyeing the cracks running along the ceiling. "Thank you for your concern." "This is not concern," Solomon said. "I will need your powers soon. Do not waste them now."